One. Hello, everybody. This is Marc Cervantes with Cerv's Legal Morsel of the Day. It's been a while, so I thought I'd bring it back with a bang. I've got Fred Agustin, a friend for a long time. He also does a lot of the work for myself and some of my businesses. Welcome, Fred. How are you doing today?
Mark, thank you. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So Fred is with Meritus Law. He's a partner there. And today's topic is, if you saw one of my LinkedIn posts recently, I received, and most people from Cook County will have received, a letter from the assessor's office. It had to do with a COVID adjustment. So Fred, I wanted to bring you on, and can you explain what this letter that people got was?
Yeah, so, right when the pandemic hit back in March, the assessor's office, their whole goal behind it was they're trying to get ahead of it, meaning they knew that there possibly could have an effect on home values as a result of COVID-19, which means your assessment should be lowered as well, reflective of your fair market value. So I think what the assessor's office tried to do is they try to get ahead of it instead of waiting so that the homeowners could get some type of benefit. So as a result of their work, homeowners, residential properties in Cook County have been receiving this COVID-19 adjustment. And that's basically what the assessor's office is trying to do in response to COVID-19 and how it affects your property value as it relates to property taxes.
Now, this adjustment is for the 2020 tax year. Those bills won't come out until 2021, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And specifically, that adjustment won't be reflected until your second installment bill in 2021. That's usually released on July 1st of every year.
Now, with regards to taxes for the unindoctrinated, so, it's not really a mystery, but, a lot of people don't understand that. Could you tell our audience, how does the treasurer determine your tax bill? Because the assessed value is only one portion of it, and it's not necessarily indicative of what your actual final tax bill is going to be.
Yeah, and that's correct. It's a formula, and the formula is your property's assessment times the state equalizer times the local tax rate. And then you get your property tax liability before exemptions, and then, once that amount's calculated, if you live at the property, you're entitled to a homeowner exemption, and, the exemptions then kick in after that. So that's pretty much the formula in terms of how to calculate taxes here in Cook County.
So how do you foresee the reduced COVID, not exemption, but the reductions, how are they going to play upon the 2020 tax bills that are payable next year?
That's always the $1 million question, right? Try to forecast that. But, let's go back to the formula. So we know that when we're appealing your assessment, you're appealing the property's assessment, which is a component or just one component of the formula. State equalizer is another component, local tax rate's another component, and that's not released until, May or June of 2021. And really, let's hone down to the tax rate. The tax rate is really based on the municipality in which you live in and their budget for 2021. And as you know, City of Chicago is right now going through their budget approvals for next year, as well as every other local municipality. And the local tax rate is indicative of that budget. That's how they raise their money. So really, you don't know what the tax rate's going to be until that budget is set and after the appeal session has been completed. So, with COVID-19, we know that here in the city of Chicago and other local municipalities, they were affected by it financially. So they're probably looking to raise more money to cover, expenses and, every other city service they provide to their constituents. So the way to raise that funds is through taxes. So going back to your original point, granted, we are all receiving some type of adjustment to our assessment. However, the local tax rates, depending on where you live, could go up just to try to cover that budget shortfall in a lot of these municipalities that were affected. So, to answer your question, in theory, if your assessment goes down, yes, your taxes should go down. But if the tax rates are going to go up, again, we don't know what that value is going to be until later this year, then your perceived reductions may not be as much as you thought of.
So that brings me to my next point. So as I had stated earlier, your office, you specifically, you've done my personal appeals, you've done some of my other businesses' appeals. So tell the audience a little bit about, just because we receive these letters, what other things they can do, how your firm can help them with regards to tax appeals and the board of review and things like that.
Yeah, so I'd say right now we're still in the 2020 appeal session. We're entering the Cook County Board of Review component of the appeal session. And, as well as Marc, I used to be a hearing officer on the Cook County Board of Review. So, I'm very knowledgeable in terms of how the Cook County Board of Review operates in terms of their appeals. So even though a homeowner or a property owner received this COVID-19 adjustment, it doesn't mean you're done with appealing your home or your property. You could still appeal your property, even though you received that reduction. And the goal with that appeal is to reduce your assessment even more from the adjustment you got via COVID-19 from the assessor's office. So my advice to people is still appeal it. At least have someone look at it. Either it's me or someone else. I prefer it's me, but contact me and I can still look at it to see if there's still room for further reductions in addition to what you received via COVID-19.
Let's say you strike out on that first area with regards to the appeal. There's a secondary way you can appeal your taxes as well, correct?
Well, yeah. So obviously there are two places where you could appeal your taxes in Cook County. You could do the assessor's office and our board of review. And the assessor pretty much has completed their review. And it's the board of review. Now, the key component is if let's just say if you did not receive any reductions at the county level, or if you did receive a reduction and you're not happy with it, you could go to the next level, which is the Illinois Property Tax Appeal Board. Which is essentially kind of operates as the appellate court for property tax appeal purposes. And the only way to get to the Illinois Property Tax Appeal Board is if you have filed an appeal with the Board of Review. That's the only way to get to PTAB, which is an acronym for the Illinois Property Tax Appeal Board, is you need to file an appeal with the Board of Review. And that's by law, and that's by statute. So even if you appealed at the assessor's office, but you didn't appeal at the board of review, you can't then file an appeal with PTAB because you didn't file an appeal with the board of review, if that makes sense. So in order to get to that next level in what you're just talking about, we need to file an appeal with the board of review.
Okay. So whenever I represent people that are buying new properties residentially and or commercially, I always tell them to file an appeal every single year. Is that still, in Cook County at least, is that still the general consensus about when people get their assessed, it's not their tax bill, but when they get their new assessed values, is it always still good to have an attorney look at it?
Yeah, so again, remember in Cook County, you get reassessed every 3 years, but you could actually appeal your property every year. So I would say even for the first year of that triennial period or 3-year period, you want to appeal that first year. Now, the second and third year, you could also appeal. My advice on that is if you got a reduction the first year, we'll at least look at it the second and third year to see if there's any room for further reductions. That's the approach I take. And that's probably the approach a lot of people should take is you could certainly appeal the second or third year. It's your right. I mean, it doesn't hurt you by doing it. My point is you should just go have someone look at it to see if it's even worth it in terms of filing an appeal.
So how do people get a hold of you, Fred, if they wanted to contact you about taking a look at what their assessed value is, it'd be worth filing an appeal? How should somebody either call you or email you or check out your website?
So yeah, our website, check out our website. Our website is www.moritas.com. Obviously, this will be posted on LinkedIn. So you'll have access to my profile. You can message me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn page also has my email address, which is probably another good way to email me. I'll mention my email address now. It's F Agustin, so my first initial F, and then my last name Agustin. That's Agustin, and it's at Mauritas.com, MAURID as in dog, ES.com. Again, if you look on my LinkedIn page, my email is on that. I also have my other forms of communication as well. So that's probably the best way to reach me.
And I'll put that in the comment section of the video. Well, Fred, thank you so much for your insight. Looking to get a lot of people towards your way. Like I said, I use Fred personally and also for my businesses. We really appreciate you joining us on today's episode, and good luck with all your appeals. And if you need anything from Fred, do not fear to reach out to him. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Fred.
And Mark, before I let you go again, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on this podcast or this little Zoom call with you. One thing I do like to point out, though, is, we were talking about residential properties. Commercial properties are people who have owners of commercial properties. They should also still look to appeal their properties this year. They did not receive any COVID-19 adjustment. And I know a lot of commercial properties, either multifamily or storefronts, they were suffering this year too. I encourage them to also appeal and contact me too, because the board review, they'll take into account the troubles a lot of these commercial property owners are suffering through COVID-19, and that has an effect on value. Either, tenants not paying the rent, commercial storefronts, tenants, vacating their spaces or not paying their rent. These are arguments, these are good valid arguments to be made in terms of, hey, I should have a lower value or lower assessment on my property. So I encourage all commercial property owners too to look into appealing their properties as well.
Well, very good. Go residential, commercial with Fred. Thank you, Fred, and thank you, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode.